Yes, indeed. It is Thursday Night Thoughts. We're actually here today. Thank you, JC Zargo, for doing 3 weeks of prep for one show. I appreciate that. And Mr. Spread, always good to see you. For those of you that don't know about this show, we're going to break down Thursday Night Football. The boys want to talk about a couple of games coming up on Sunday. And I do want to give a little promotion here. Another shout out. We were talking about it a lot yesterday. The NBA Rundown, which comes up after the show, 5 o'clock Eastern time, right, Spread?
That's
you
right.
guys are just destroying it in a very good way. What's going on with the Rundown coming up at 5 today? How you guys been doing, Spread? Because I hear you're doing pretty damn good.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good right now. Had a rough couple of days, but, the best time to tail a capper is when they're on a cold streak because, I've proven over the last 6 years that I can win in the NBA. And just like we like to bet bounce back spots in the NFL and in the NBA, I think you guys should bet a bounce back spot for me tonight. So join us for the NBA Rundown, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, Jabroni, you can ask him NBA questions on the Rundown because I'm sure they'll take your questions if you got them. Zargo, good evening. Good to do the NBA NHL live show with you last night. Got a couple wins there. Your pre-flop plays were just sick. Woo!
Yes.
Made some money.
Yes, I put in Discord. Live plays were not as popping as they were our last go around, but that's all right. Made it up on the pre-flop plays and got some more plays on the sheet today. I really like. Finally, I'm hitting that sweet spot in the season where hopefully we can get on here.
Yeah, so I'm feeling good about it too. Sean and I did the live show with Zargo last night, so that was a lot of fun, and we had a profitable night. So I just woke up today. I saw we won some bets. Great, good job out of us. Now we are talking Thursday Night Football. And if you get a chance, throw us a like. The like button would be great. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Nuke the House. That would be a lot of fun for all of us. So, guys, I do want to give an update on the weather. People have been freaking out about it all week long. I'm not as worried about it. The conditions, it might be sloppy. We've got a wintry mix, right? So mid-30s, rain, snow mix. The wind was what we were all worried about. It was supposed to be, 15, 20, 22 miles an hour. Now it's supposed to be pretty steady at around 14 miles an hour with very if it's to little or no gusts. So Spreader, the weather is not bothering me that much coming into the game. I do think there will be a slight decrease in passing production. If you look at, there's a good study from The Athletic, but they did 15 mile an hour winds and above take the passing game down about 12% when there's precipitation. Thing is, there's not 15 mile an hour winds tonight. So before we break the game down, what do you think of the weather? You nervous? Shouldn't be.
Not at all. Obviously, it does have a lot to play into the game, but we've talked about it before. The wind is tougher on the passing game than the rain. The rain can sometimes help the offense. So in the end, it's a net neutral, right? Because the idea is the rain helping the offense. You go, that doesn't make sense. Well, if you're trying to cover me and I know where I'm going and you don't, right? It's a little harder for you to keep your footing. So I think the weather's a wash. And if anything, maybe helps the over a little bit as this total keeps going lower and lower. Mm-hmm. Something to keep in mind tonight.
People are completely overreacting to this now. And we see it all the time. There's certain games that I look at the weather and I say, okay, 25 mile an hour winds, I'm down with it. I'm not worried about the precipitation. If the snow actually sticks to the ground tonight, that's great. That's a massive advantage to the offense. Zargo, where are you on the weather tonight? We start this game with the weather.
Yeah, for sure. So it helps. It's not, for those that read my article, I'm on some all unders. That more has to do with the teams that are playing. So I do like the unders here, and the weather is kind of just a nice piece to help me get there. But I'm so drastically on the under because of the teams playing. It's not simply because of the weather. So I want people to know I'm not overreacting to that, but it is going to help us here for sure tonight.
Okay, so we've got that out of the way. Maddie's in the chat. Maddie threw out a really good bet last night that I'm on. So if you have not looked at the in-game bets chat, he put one in there yesterday on a Pittsburgh side. He also puts this, go to nukethehouse.com. Subscribe button's in the upper right-hand corner. Click that. Sign up for any plan. We won't charge you unless you want to be charged. If you want a free week, type in the code Nuke November. Nuke November. 1 free week. Why not? It's not going to hurt you. It'll take about 90. And you'll have access to our pre-flop picks for tonight. You'll have access to our pre-flop picks for Sunday. You'll have the 1 and 4 o'clock slates behind the paywall. Those are great shows. You'll have Monday Night Football picks as well. So you're getting a lot if you sign up right now. Our show tonight is going to be free during the game, 8:10 Eastern time, live show. Myself, Kegger, I will probably be there as well. Let's get into this thing. So, Zargo, I'll go to you first. The line is 3.5 with the Steelers 3.5 favorites on the road. The total is 36. And again, this thing was 39 as 2 days ago. And now, boom, we're down to 36.5. Spread has basically stayed the same, 4 points, 3.5 points. What do you got, Zargo?
Yeah, for sure. So this is an interesting one. And it's one of those games where you got to really take it beyond face value when you're talking about divisional opponents. This is the oldest rivalry in football. And these are two teams that play each other tough. And no matter how bad the Browns are, they give Pittsburgh trouble. Home team has won and covered in the last 5 meetings between these teams. And it's a huge letdown spot for the Steelers. I know that's going to be a massive narrative, but I mean, think about it. They just came off their biggest win of the season, and they got a bye coming up. How great. I mean, these guys got to be ecstatic that they got a Thursday night game and they don't play again for 10 days. Like, with such an easy game too, they can't be happy they got to go to Cleveland and play in this cold. So, I mean, they're probably dwelling on that. They're thinking about the vacation they got coming up. And it's Cleveland. Why do they need to think twice about Cleveland? It's just the perfect spot for an upset because it's like in any conditions, it's a spot where you got to think twice about Cleveland. So Stefanski's coaching for his job. I don't think he's in quite like a Doug Peterson position. Like, I think he can still salvage things. He was given such a raw deal with at the quarterback. So with Winston, I think Winston's going to be live tonight. I think Cleveland's got a real shot to win this thing outright, but 3.5 is such a beautiful number that I love that. And as I kind of touched on beforehand, I really like the under because these teams are going to play each other tough, short week, bad conditions, defense heavy. I like the under.
What do you got here, spreader? 3.5 point spread.
On the opposite side, usually we're with JC. We do like home dogs. We do like the underdog in the divisional rivalry. But unfortunately for Cleveland and their fans, I mean, this team simply is not very good. And I know that Stefanski's coaching for his job, but at the same time, I don't know if that necessarily is going to allow him to get over the hump against the Steelers team that should be motivated. I know that Tomlin is much better as the dog, and that's the spot that you want to back him in. However, I think this team will be fired up for this game. So I don't think that it's the letdown spot that most people think it is. And then from a football side, that Steelers defense is way too much. They were able to put the clamps on Lamar Jackson and that exciting electric offense. I mean, this is going to be like turning the difficulty sliders down tenfold going against Jameis Winston and this inept Cleveland Browns offense. They're not going to be able to establish the run. That's going to be too much Jameis through the air. And if I'm batting the Steelers, thing I do want is Jameis to drop back about 40 times going against TJ Watt and that elite pass rush. So as tough as it is, just like in grammar, the rules are made to be broken. And I'm going to break my normal rule here, and I'm going to lay it with the favorite. Take the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Spread, let me ask you, though, because I think Winston props are interesting in this one. When you look at the yards per game, their pass defenses are pretty equal, Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Obviously, Pittsburgh has the much more dominant rush defense. What do you make of that in a game where the conditions are what they are?
I think that that's one of those cases where statistics can be misleading because Cleveland's constantly playing from behind.
Sure.
So they're going to be able to move the ball, of course. So it's going to look like, the Steelers' pass defense isn't the same, but they're usually playing with the lead.
Sure.
So they're facing more attempts. So
and
I think
the reverse for Cleveland.
A fine coach, but I think Tomlin and these guys know they have an opportunity to do something special here, and I don't think they're going to let that pass them by.
Something special? Beating Cleveland is something special.
No, but going to the AFC Championship game with potentially a home field advantage
Sure.
would be something special, especially for a team that most of us had slotted for third place in the standings before the season started. So they're definitely exceeding expectations. And another man that's exceeding expectations, myself included, was Russell Wilson. I was team Justin Fields in the offseason, but we can't deny the effect that Wilson's had on this team. Number one, getting Pickens involved. And, Pickens is a player that, hey, he might need the ball. I don't know if he's the most self-motivated guy, and I think that the production has definitely helped him. Not only that, the ability to push down the field has opened things up for Najee Harris. And Najee Harris is having a little mini resurgence at this point of his career. And I don't think the impact of the fact that the safeties have to play back a little farther due to the fact that Pickens, Mike Williams, and Russell Wilson pushing down the field is helping that offense a lot more. So this offense has become a lot more balanced since Wilson's got into the game, and I just like Pittsburgh here a lot.
Okay, good. Everybody's going unders tonight, so we'll see what happens. Pittsburgh, again, divisional game. Zargo has pointed out where the home teams are usually pretty good, but there you go. Let's get into something else here. And again, we're going to get into Eagles, Rams, Green Bay, San Francisco, Seattle, Arizona, the other 3 games. But I want to remind you, like button would be great. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Nuke the House YouTube channel. So hit that and turn on your notifications so you know when we're on. Our next 2 shows, 5 o'clock Eastern, NBA Rundown, Spread Tyler, 8:10 Eastern, Thursday Night Football live betting show. Really excited. Love our live betting shows. They are the best. I have something to show you. Our friend Ben Fox, okay? He threw this up here today. He goes, I asked 6 odd makers what they'd made Lions Chiefs on a neutral field, okay? Lions Chiefs neutral field. I don't think that Keg has the power ratings out yet this week. I'm not sure. But Lions minus 4.5, I think, is silly. Lions minus 2.5, 2, 1.5, 1, and pick them. So everybody has the Lions as favorites. Zargo, I'm going to go to you first because it's a neutral field. So it probably have to be the Super Bowl for this to happen. Are the Lions the favorites in this game if we're talking Super Bowl?
Absolutely not. I mean, so it's funny you sent me this. And my initial question was playoffs or regular season. And I think the Chiefs should be favored, especially if it's in the playoffs. I mean, Detroit, sure, they are bulldozing through this season and making a joke of every team they played, but they haven't played anyone. It's easy to look good. We've seen it time and time again. Dallas last year, Miami last year, Washington this year. It's easy to look good when you play bad opponents. Well, I still think they're a good team. Well, I still think they are the best team in the NFC. I haven't seen anything that can indicate they can run with a big dog like Kansas City. Kansas City catches some crap because they don't cover spreads. They win games. So precisely here, obviously it would be tight. If you want to go a point or two either direction, I'm not going to say you're a fool, but Kansas City, they're going to win that game, especially against an playoff inexperienced team if we're talking playoffs again. And I think I don't want to say they embarrass them, but I'd probably jump on an alt spread, seeing that game as a pick 'em, or in my opinion, minus 1.5, minus 2 for KC.
Okay. What do you got spread? Lions versus Chiefs. What's the number we're putting it at?
Holden, remind me, the Super Bowl's played in Arizona this year, right?
Yeah.
All right. I think that I'm gonna kind of cop out on this answer here. I think that if this is a Super Bowl played in Arizona, that the line opens at Lions minus 2.5. And that's going to be off the power of the net ratings, the DVOA, the efficiency, everything statistically is going to tell you the Lions. So that's what they'll open it up at. And then we will spend 2 weeks talking about Patrick Mahomes' record as an underdog, going over the three-peat, and it closes at a pick. So that's my kind of cheater answer there is I think the books would open it. So to answer your question, I would put it at minus 2.5. But I think the Chiefs would take a ton of money in this scenario and closes at a pick. I
will agree that I think if we're just talking about where the books are going to put it, it's going to be a point or two in favor of Detroit. If I'm the bookmaker, if I'm taking bets, I'll give you points with the Lions.
Detroit -1.5 is where I put it. Because right there, you're either taking the Chiefs and we're moving the line that way, or 1.5, you push it up to 2.5. I think 1.5 is probably the number here. Now the power ratings, when Keg comes out with them, I'll bet you it's more than one.
Put it in the chat, -2.
He's got it -2. The power ratings are out
in the neutral. He put it in the chat.
Beautiful. Let's go. So we have the Lions -2. All right. I'd put it at 1.5, 1.5, 2. I think it's a great conversation though. And that to me would be a fascinating Super Bowl. I'm done with the Chiefs in Super Bowl though. I'm ready to move on from them this year. I love Mahomes, love Reed, love the fan base, love the Chiefs. I'm ready for the Bills or the Ravens to get in there. And I really do hope the Lions get in there because that fan base deserves it, man.
As much as I hate the Bills, I think Bills Lions would be an awesome Super Bowl to watch.
Oh, this is we got Lions -2 on a neutral. That's right. Thank you, Kegger. Appreciate that. I'd throw it at 1.5. You throw it at 2.5. And what'd you have, Zargo? What would you have put it at? Chiefs. Good talk. Okay, so
real quick. Let me jump in.
-1.5.
Holden, first thing I want to ask you is, off of last week's win over the Bills, do you think that do you downgrade the Chiefs at all? Do you still consider the Chiefs the favorite in the AFC, or do you think the Bills kind of showed, hey, this team does have some flaws that are exploitable?
Well, I mean, I don't want to face the Chiefs in the playoffs, man. It's just a different team. Like Kelsey will show up every single game. Will have worked Hopkins into the offense enough. I don't think he's a game changer on a consistent basis, but they've got him. Pacheco's coming back. And for anybody that thinks that Pacheco isn't an upgrade over Kareem Hunt, I just think you're out of your mind. Go look at the advanced stats. Hunt's been really good. This guy Pacheco is going to be fresh, though. He's going to be fresh down the stretch. That violent runner. So defensively,
I think that's the one thing that also EPA can't really add into it. The fact that Pacheco, guys like Derrick Henry, they hit you. And so you're more effective in the fourth quarter. Yeah. And I'm messing around a little bit more, but now let's go ahead and throw this. Let's say the Bills win. Is it still Lions -1.5? How do you think that adjusts? And what team would have to make the Super Bowl in the AFC?
Yeah, that's Lions -1.5.
Favored by more than 3.
Lions -1.5. I bet you Keg has it at 1. What do you got, Keg? You're in the chat right now. What would you have Lions and the Bills? That's a great question. Lions and Bills, I bet you'd be Lions -1.
I mean, how far do we have to go down in the standings? The Chargers, would the Chargers be 3.5?
Oh,
the
stop
Steelers,
it.
4?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. So what is it in the NFC? The Lions, the Eagles, who are now in it again, despite their idiot coach, Nick Sirianni. Okay. Are those the 2 teams that we're talking about? There's nobody in the West.
Right.
Packers, I guess the Packers have a big statement game this week. We'll see what the Packers are when they come out of this one. So here again, Lions -1 on a neutral against the Bills, and probably the same thing with the Ravens, 1.5.
The interesting thing about the Ravens, it'd be really interesting to see what that number is because of what they would have to do to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right. That offense is electric. The defense has been terrible. So if they somehow just their defense finds it in the playoffs, then I think that's a situation where you might get a decent favorite on for the Ravens against the Lions.
Great conversation.
And my final point in there too is I think it's going to matter. Let's assume that the Lions are in the Super Bowl. It's going to matter how they get there. Do they win both games by 20? Right? Do they just cakewalk in there?
No.
I mean, I wouldn't be that surprised. I think they'll win their divisional round by a lot. They're going to be at home. And
again, there's a lot of time. They got a great running game. They got a great defense.
I don't think so.
I think they still got some issues. We'll see how they do rushing the passer with a couple of injuries there, but that's a machine right now. But don't forget, we're down on the Chiefs. I don't want to fade the Chiefs in playoffs. I don't want to lose money again. 2 years ago, they won me all the money. Last year, they kicked my ass. I don't want to mess with it. All right, like button would be great. We got 3 more games to get to. We're going to talk about the Sunday games coming up now. But again, 5 o'clock Eastern NBA rundown. If you like NBA, Spread and Tyler crushing it. And then our live broadcast tonight is free for everybody. Thursday night football. Myself, Keg, Iowa's going to be there. We'll go win you some money in this nasty, gross weather game between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. I love gross weather games. Jared saying Browns versus Steelers, question mark. Hit rewind 20 minutes. We just did a big breakdown of it, buddy. Promise. We did a huge breakdown. So go back in time, watch that, come back, and by the time you're at this point, we'll be getting into our next game, Seattle and Arizona. Now, I believe both boys wanted to talk about Seattle and Arizona, if I am correct.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, it's kind of weird. You've got the Cardinals 1-point favorites at one book. You've got the Seahawks 1-point favorites at another book. The total is pretty consistent at 47.5. But let me just dig into this a little bit more. So we got pick'ems. We got -1 here. Bet365 Arizona -1. The score -1 for Seattle. DraftKings -1 for Seattle. -1. I mean, this is nuts, man. Both sides now. So I guess I'll just call it a pick 'em at this point. Zargo, you want to talk about Arizona, Seattle?
I'd love to, man. My takeaway, I've been just keeping an eye on Arizona, trying to figure out what they are. I mean, just getting whiplash from them at the beginning of the season. I couldn't nail them down. And even the past 2 weeks, I'm like, it's still San Francisco's division to lose. I'm out on San Francisco. We'll get to that later. But this team is legit. They've found some consistency. The defense is playing well. And, I mean, they're live. They're a great team. They found it. No one really expected this from them. I think a lot of people have kind of given up on Kyler Murray. And so partially it's just that I'm high on Arizona, but then it's crazy to see a pick 'em with they're playing the Seahawks. Again, I know it's a divisional game. I know Seattle has dominated Arizona in the past, but Arizona, this is like a team we've never seen before. In Seattle, just isn't very good. They've shown some flashes, but like they're coming off a game where they beat San Francisco by 3. San Francisco's not very good. That's not impressive as we would have thought it was at the beginning of the season. They lost to the Rams, a team that's not very good. They got blown out by the Bills. And it's just like you look at their schedule, and any time you thought something about Seattle, we can now look at it retrospectively and see what we thought was impressive, really not that impressive. So I think Arizona is just a vastly superior team. I'm glad I don't have to lay any points, right? I can take points, but I'm just going to jump on the money line. But, being in Seattle will make it tough, but they'll win this game and, further their lead in the NFC West.
You on the same side or different side here, Spreader? I am on the opposite side, JC. I cannot believe that you think that this line tells me, and we'll just go with the pick, the Arizona Cardinals are 2.5 points better than the Seattle Seahawks.
Absolutely.
I don't see that at all. I don't see that at all. And here's a couple of my reasons. Number one, I don't think those current numbers are encapsulating what we've got from this Seattle team right now. This Seattle team started off hot. Then they lost their whole defensive line and a couple offensive linemen to injuries, right? So they put forward some bad numbers. So if you're just pumping in net rating like I do, I don't have a really advanced model, it's going to show you, the Seahawks really aren't that good. The fact of the matter is those defensive linemen are back, and this defense is under a new head coach. So now we are 12 weeks into the season. They're really learning. They're really understanding this scheme. On the offensive side, they've got some tackles back. Now we're getting more protection for Geno Smith. We know that Geno Smith is not – we did quarterback rankings, right? We're not putting him – he's not carrying your team. But if you give him time, and with these weapons, he can get things done. And an untold story this season has been the emergence of Jackson Smith-Njigba as a top wide receiver. We saw it last week. As soon as Bosa went out, the Seahawks were able to move the ball right down the field. And I don't think the Cardinals have a pass rusher or a pass rush that's equivalent to the 49ers with Bosa in the game. So when we look at this team, they're going to be at home. The weather's going to be wild. Not good for Arizona, right? How often do they see rain? 3 times a year? Side note, when I went to Arizona State, we all ran outside when it started raining in October.
You went to Arizona State?
I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Oh, my God. That's like the best part. When you add partying and women into it, like you went to the best place ever, right?
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Cleaned up. Good for you, bro.
Yeah, but my point is here. It's a tough trip. And Seattle's a tough place to play, and there's a reason that the Cardinals have not had success against the Seahawks. So we're on opposite sides. We'll get some bragging rights for next week, but give me the Seattle Seahawks.
All right. So they're on the other side there. Spread, I'm going to come right back to you because I know you want to talk about a pretty big game coming up in the standings here. Now, the Eagles still have a shot at home field advantage. The Lions are going to have to trip up, but the Eagles, they're atop. What are they, a game behind the Lions? Maybe a game and a half? The Eagles are 3.5 point or 2.5 point, 2.5 3-point favorites at the Rams in Los Angeles. And the total's 48.5. 49. You know, the Rams have been kind of Jekyll and Hyde. That game against Miami was just disgusting. It's a game they probably should have won. Miami's playing better football. On the other side, again, despite Sirianni, this offense for Philadelphia is starting to get more efficient. Jalen Hurts has taken over. Saquon Barkley, maybe the offensive player of the year at this point, right? And then they've got Puka and Kupp and a defense that's still having problems rushing the passer. That boy, they need Aaron Donald to come back. Anyways, that's my breakdown. Give us the big breakdown here. Eagles, 2.5 3-point favorites on the road at LA against the Rams.
I mean, there's really only one negative thing we can say about the Philadelphia Eagles, Holden.
Sirianni?
Yeah, that's their head coach. That's their head coach. But what does he really do? He's not calling plays on offense. He's not calling plays on defense. I mean, he does some jackass stuff like yell at fans and stuff. But for the most part, I think that sometimes we overrate that in our handicap. Let's just actually look at the football side of the thing. This Philadelphia Eagles defensive line is going to eat. And as good as Stafford is, and he can get the ball out quickly, and he's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league, I think it's going to be too much for them to handle. And then where I think the Eagles are really going to have the big edge in this game is on the offensive side of the ball. Yes, this Rams defense has improved, but we didn't really expect too much from them this season. But the Eagles' balanced offensive attack is simply going to be too much. Once they're able to establish that run with with Saquon Barkley, it's going to just open things up for A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts. This Eagles team is much too much. And we talked about how weak this NFC West is. Not the best division this year. Eagles 8-2. They know they got a chance to catch the Lions. I think we're going to see a great effort from the Eagles in prime time. And like you said, what did the Rams do last time they were on prime time? Some of their flaws were exposed as that Miami defensive line was really able to put a lot of pressure on Matt Stafford and kind of destroy the game plan that McVay had started for him. So I'm going to take the better offense. I'm going to take the better defense. Sucks I got to take the worst coach, but give me the Philadelphia Eagles.
Whew, I just threw the standings up there in the NFC. It's the Lions 1 game ahead of the Eagles. That's it. 1 game ahead of the Eagles. And then you get the Vikings that are 8-2 as well. They're just behind in the head-to-head or the conference standings. So Lions, Eagles, Vikings still in the mix to win the NFC. Everybody thinks it's just a fait accompli that it's going to be the Lions. That's not right. Chiefs 9-1, Bills 9-2, Steelers 8-2. You got some other teams with 3 losses like the Chargers, but it's starting to get really, really interesting. Thanksgiving's really when I start looking at the standings. Anyways, that spread's picked there. We still have one more game to get to, and that's going to be Green Bay, San Francisco. Zargo's going to break it down, but I'll say it again. You want a free week? You might as well take it because we ain't giving it away forever. Most of our people that try for a free week end up staying a lot longer. So you see the code right on top of me, Nuke November. Go to nukethehouse.com. Hit the subscribe button. When you get there, pick a plan. Doesn't matter which one. Throw in your info. Type in Nuke November, and we won't charge you unless you want to be charged. Simple as that. I'll give you a week. Go check it out. And that's all we need. Well, what's going on? Maddie is backing up. Maddie's backing up Sirianni. Kegger threw out a freak alert for me because God, Arizona State, what a place. I'm jealous. I went to Kansas. We got a great basketball team, so I wouldn't have 2 championships, but I had a lot of memories, but God, the Arizona State women, dude. This just blew my mind. I didn't know you were such a player. Good for you. Good for you, Spread. Where'd you go to school, Zargo? You're on mute, ding dong.
To Mute University.
Yeah, he did go to Mute University about 5 times a shot. What's up?
I did my schooling online through UNC Pembroke. So it's one of those things that I was living there. I was living it up in Southern California, making more money than any 20-year-old should have. So I had a great time, but I'm still jealous of spread going to ASU. I will
Yeah,
say.
but if you had a lot of money at 20, girls are dumb, and they'll just at that age, they're just, hey, you got money, let's go.
I was
That
a
is
Southern
great.
gentleman in Southern California, man. It was
a good time for you too.
yeah. Things
Yeah.
were all right for
I think
JC
most
Zargo.
men had a pretty good time, probably between the ages of 19 and 25. Although getting divorced in your 40s, kind of. All right, so we're talking football. Yeah. Trust me, dude, we could go down that road for a long time, but we got a show here. I want to wrap it up because
Maybe a separate show for this one. Hold on.
has the NBA rundown at 5 o'clock. I caught myself. How about that? All right, Zargo, give it to me, baby. We got the Niners at the Packers, rematch of last year's playoff game. Packers are pissed off. They are 2-point favorites, 1.5 2-point favorites. Total here 47.5, 47. I'm not seeing too much movement there either. Are you going to take the Packers at home?
I absolutely am, man. We're done with San Francisco. They are out of excuses. There's always been something, another thing. It's Christian McCaffrey. Oh, it's his first game back. Now Bosa's out. Like it's yes, injuries suck, but number one, every team has injuries. To an extent, you got to deal with it. But number two, like this team was world beaters last year. They were demolishing everyone they faced, and now they can't beat Seattle. They lost by 10 to Kansas City. They could only beat Tampa Bay by 3. They could only beat Dallas by 6. Like this team is just not what we think it is. They're not the team of last year. And while they have a talented roster, they're still getting spreads like this. Only a 2-point dog in Green Bay. They got to go to Lambeau. Are you kidding me? This team, it's just I'm through with them. Made a couple bad spots, and similar to Arizona, I said, let's just wait and see what this team really is. We know now they're bad. I don't know what they got to do to fix it. I don't know what next year looks like for San Francisco, but this team, they're going to miss the playoffs. They're an abomination. 49ers fans should be embarrassed. And Green Bay is a team that I think they're live in the NFC. Well, I don't think they belong in that same conversation with Detroit and Philly. They're a team, man, if they're playing in the NFC championship game, I'm not going to be surprised, and I'm definitely going to give them a second look before fading them, no matter who they're playing. They're just scrappy. They've had some bad losses. They've done some stupid things, but overall, they're a good team. They're just a young team, and getting a Packers team at Lambeau at -2, I'm just going to go ahead and hammer that.
So let me get this straight, JC.
Uh-oh.
The Arizona Cardinals are this excellent team at 6-4, but the Niners are an abomination at 5-5.
Yeah, because as I said with Arizona, the problem with Arizona, it was the early part of the schedule. Like that's when it was kind of like we didn't really know what to make of them. We're talking about right now when we're looking at recent games, we see that they've found their form and have kind of like they are where they want to be at this point in the season.
All right, my take on this game, JC, is if Nick Bosa is out, they can't move the line enough, and I'm waiting on that news because I don't even care if the line moves. I think the guy's worth 4 to 5 points from that defense. They had shut Seattle down last week, and as soon as Bosa went out, the offense just came alive. So I'm waiting on that Bosa news, but I don't think he's going to play, and I think I'm going to be with you on that game, Jason.
You know what I learned this morning? Zargo, I'm sure you have a breakdown of this. I had no idea this was it. I knew Christian McCaffrey grew up from where I am. He actually went to my kid's elementary school, Christian McCaffrey. I'm like, what if Christian McCaffrey went to your elementary school, wouldn't you have like a Christian McCaffrey shrine? The kid went to school there through 5th grade. Why the hell would you not have a Christian McCaffrey shrine in an elementary school? Please tell me this.
Because he's
Denver. The only thing we make shrines for are John Elway and Von Miller.
Well, you know what? They should make one for Christian McCaffrey.
Also, too, I mean, like, yeah, maybe a little too soon.
It's too soon? That's the only guy, the only person that's come out of that school. The rest are like lawyers and doctors and shit. This is Christian McCaffrey.
I think you wait, and I think if he finishes and he does have a Hall of Fame career like he should have, then I think that school will be
retired today. He's the Hall of Fame.
Daniel Jones Shrine.
I think it'll be called Christian McCaffrey Elementary School.
Okay. Well, it's a Montessori, so I don't know if they'll do that, but
Mm.
yeah, McCaffrey Montessori School. Anyways,
You
I'm
live in
sorry.
Montessori? Been thinking about that for my
I went to
daughter.
Montessori. Yeah, probably, whatever. That's why I'm all over the place. Did you have anything else to add, or can we get out of here?
I was just gonna say. It's a great spot. The line, it's perfectly set up because San Francisco is coming off this game where they're competitive against Seattle. Green Bay had a sloppy game against Chicago. So I think that also just was a perfect culmination for making this such an easy bet.
Okay. Best bet for Thursday Night Football spread. What is the best bet for Steelers Browns?
Lay it with the Steelers, man. This Cleveland Browns team is done. And it's really disappointing for me as a Raiders fan because I need them to get at least one win so we can move ahead of them in the draft. And I don't know if it's going to happen. Put a fork in them. It's over for this team. Steelers by a lot.
Oh, boy. All right, Zargo, what do you got tonight?
Best bet, Najee Harris, 90-plus rushing and receiving yards, playing out plus 130. Tremendous bet. But I want to give an honorable mention to a bet I've been chasing all season. I think it's got a real shot. Pretty much every week, I find a game to bet no touchdown being scored. This one's 33-1 odds. I'm only putting 0.1 unit. So put on, 0.1 unit to win 3.3 units. But I think it's got a real shot to hit here tonight. And I want it on the record that I had that bet.
Okay, very good. Whew. 0.1 to win 3.3. That's what is that? 33-1. If I do the math.
You nailed it. Look at this guy knows numbers.
Look at a smart guy here. I do have one. Again, my picks are recreational purposes only, but I know that our guy Maddie's on one part of this bet, and I feel good about that. So I took Najee 60+ rushing yards, Jaylen Warren 25+ rushing yards, plus 127. I think there's going to be some running the football tonight. So hopefully Najee can get to 60. Didn't have a lot of success against him last year, but that dude is a stud. And then Maddie, who has hit a 90-1 and a 55-1, I think, over the last week. Jaylen Warren, under 2.5 catches and over 25.5 yards at 23-1.
That's a play.
All right, spread. Plug the show coming up in 20 minutes.
That's right. 20 minutes. Head right back to this channel for the NBA Rundown. We only have a 4-game slate for tonight. Hopefully, I'm going to have JC with me so we can continue to argue. That's at 5 p.m. Eastern.
You're coming on, Zargo?
I am. As long as my daughter stays asleep, I'm in.
Yep. So join in, have some fun with us, and we'll continue to beat the NBA.
All right. And I'll say this again. Tonight, 8:10 Eastern, free show. Free show for you. Browns and Steelers. I'll be live betting with Keg in Iowa. And then if you want our pre-flop plays or the pre-flop plays for the Sunday slate or anything behind the paywall, the 1 and 4 o'clock shows on Sunday, Nuke November. That's what you do. Use code Nuke November for a 1-week free trial at nukethehouse.com. Hit the subscribe button. I think you can figure out how to do it from there. Great seeing both of you boys. Zargo, Spread, two of my favorites. Everybody's my favorite, really. So good to see both of you guys. Let's go Nuke the House.